Do what thou wilt was said to me, and as thou wilt, so mote it be. For love shall be the whole of the law, love under will. These words were first penned by Aleister Crowley almost a century ago in his attempts to try and give some kind of deeper spiritual understanding of what it is to be a spiritualist and finding the motivations that can and should be the driving force in what everybody who is in this should seek to attain. The reason being that a lot of people will misinterpret his sayings and spin them in a completely self-serving manner is in order to be able to give rise to the desire to fulfill baser motivations. It is unfortunate because it is an unnecessary grievance to add to something that is already difficult to try and wend your way through, whether it's on your own or with others, to have something like this obfuscated. And so I decided that today it should be something that we discuss, or at least seek to understand the deeper meaning behind, because it has been the single strongest driving force as to why I have done what I have done throughout my life with my gifts. As before with the last live stream, I simply started the stream and I had others join later after I was done discussing the things that I wanted to speak about. Mainly because I didn't want anybody to think that there was a particular group of people that were always allowed in and everybody else had to stay out. Damona's with me right now because we were discussing things before the live show, and I wanted to, didn't want to kick her out and say come back later. That's rather rude of me. So, firstly, understanding what the saying means specifically and what the law is when making love the law first means that you'll have to understand where the roots of the words come from. If you look in the notes on where love is the law, you'll find probably about 20 songs which are based on Aleister Crowley's saying, but you won't find much in the way of explanations as to the deeper meaning and content to it. When he would sign letters, he would sign it Thelema Agape. Thelema is the Greek word for will that directly relates to intention. The intent to do something. The intent to carry out something. The intention or desire or drive with the mind, solely from the mind, from the logical standpoint, to do, motivated by love. And the version of love that he invokes is agape. That's another Greek word. Now, the Greeks understood that there was more than one kind of love. And I'm going to discuss them now. The basest one is eros, which is sexual passion. That's the first kind of love. It was named after the Greek god of fertility, Eros. It can be irrational. It is sometimes animalistic. It is possessive. It can possess you. It is a loss of control. It is a surrender of control. When you hear the words madly in love, the version that people are talking about is eros, because they simply are out of their heads with it. The next version is philia, deep friendship. The kinds of friendships that last your entire life, even if you've never seen that person for 20 years, but you come back together and immediately it's as if no time has passed and you're just childhood friends to the end. Joel and I have this kind of friendship, philia. You may have heard filial love or filial relationships. Then there's the kind of love that a lot of polyamorous people engage in, which is more common, which is ludus, which is a playful love, one where it's a non-committal, or one that younger lovers, such as teens, engage in. Playful banter type of love, casual sex kind of love with no strings attached, but also no anger later. Usually it's frowned on as being frivolous. And pragma, which is a long-standing love, the kind of love that you encounter when you have people who've been married, but simply they weren't in love when they got together. It was a pragmatic, that's where the term comes from, a pragmatic relationship, similar to the one between Rev Tevye and his wife in Fiddler on the Roof. They didn't love each other when they got together because it was an arranged marriage, but later on began to love one another. The one that I have the worst trouble with, philautia, which is love of the self. And no, not narcissism. That is an unhealthy version. Philautia is a more organic and a healthier version of understanding the self and loving the self, because it increases the capacity to love others, to love people, places, things, pets, appreciate the things in the world, art. It literally spills out over onto all other forms of love and makes them greater. But the last one, agape, the love for everyone without a reservation or condition, for everyone. A universal loving kindness is one of the descriptions that I've read. But the original intention of giving the name agape to a kind of love is, it is simply an empathic love, unreserved, one that doesn't require any kind of feedback, no giving back to. It is the love that gives and gives and gives and gives unreservedly, and simply does so for the simple joy of giving. This kind of love is one that can be overwhelming to most of the people in the US, because we have lost our empathy and we have lost our sense of motivation to help one another, in the drive to be told that we're fools for loving or caring in that fashion, and to watch for ourselves and to find other motivations. In the absence of agape, in the absence of love of this kind, people tend to find very strange motivations. And in our line of work, this motivation replacement tends to be this buckaroo kind of yeehaw, let me get out there and defy the odds, Evel Knievel jumping the Grand Canyon kind of insanity. And we all know how that ended. If you don't, look it up on YouTube. It's hair-raising. Fortunately, you don't get to see anything breaking, but it will still scare you royally. Especially when you consider somebody's trying to figure out how to make that actually work sometime in the next 2 years. I actually watched it live on ABC. Yeah, that will scar a kid for life. But agape is the reason why Joel and I got into doing what we're doing, because we saw it as a responsibility and a gift to the world to take away the things that can pose a danger, especially the things that people don't want to acknowledge exist or do not want to see in their daily lives. Some people just need to have that level of protection because their sense of what the world is has been narrowed by modern society and media and Hollywood. And so, as Peter Venkman said in Ghostbusters 2, sometimes stuff happens and somebody's got to do something, and who are you going to call? And literally, that's what Joel and I thought we were going to end up doing. Life had different ideas because apparently we weren't ready for it. But just the same, that is the motivator. And in the last, oh gosh, what is it, 4 months, that has been the primary motivator also in my life to help a great many people inside and out of our group. And I have found that when I give in to this drive, this instinct, this motivation, I find untapped well springs of strength, and that I am better for having it, and that it doesn't just motivate me, it humbles me, it gentles my sharp edges, it gives me a hilarity of purpose. And it is literally the drive for me to go out and face my fears. And I have a great many of them, especially in this line of work. But when I am in that strength of moment, when I am in the purity of my purpose, granted by love being the law that drives me, my fears fall away. The things I worry about no longer touch me. My worry for myself is gone and supplanted with a motivation, I would say, that borders on righteousness. I know that sounds kind of arrogant, but believe me, I mean it in the most humble fashion I can describe. And so by understanding that this should be the main reason that any of us get into this, not anger, not revenge, not hate for the things that are unclean, because you cannot drive things out when your purpose is no better than the dark things that have found inspiration and ways to stay linked to this world. You can't make the dark brighter by turning lights out. You have to light up the darkness with your own internal light. And the strongest of the lights within you is the unconditional love that is a shard of what God took from himself and put into all of us before we were born. It is a universal loving kindness. In Spanish, it's cariño. It is simply the purest state I think humans can reach in anything they do, whether it is doing the works that we discuss here on this channel, or in competition, or political office, or in religion, or in doing your work every day, just being honest and forthright and kind, as my friend Eric Reeves was before he died. The soul of Christian charity and understanding and temperance, while giving an unmitigated level of love to everyone and everything, and using that filter to keep the iciness away from your heart. So now I'm going to invite people in, and because you've now heard me maunder on about the things that I find important. And I will ask what your thoughts on the subjects are. So Damona, you still with me, or did I bore you to tears?
I'm still here.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on the subject?
Give me a couple minutes.
Okay, I do apologize. So we no longer have any viewers. That's interesting. Hopefully that we will get some later, but
where's everybody else? Like,
I sent out the invitations. I want for the room, and then of course, as I told them, we're going to be doing things slightly different, where we start without the people in the room, and then I bring them in, especially if there's viewers. I do not want to exclude anybody. And Sonia is in there, and she can come up. I sent her the link directly to the Hangout. I can understand how they would not know whether this was something that has to do with the metaphysical, because this is actually some of the deeper spiritual discussions. And I thought this one was more than time. We were far more ready for this one, because it's really kind of a crucial discussion. Should happen usually somewhere in towards the beginning, because people that we've lost from the beginning group, we're doing so. We've lost because they were more interested in the idea of thrills and chills, and well, if you need that, there's Universal Studios and Magic Mountain and all those other places where you can get on rides that are amazing.
Hi, Sonia.
Hey.
Hello, Sonia.
Hi.
So, any thoughts on the subject at hand?
You pretty much said what I think everybody can agree on.
Well, there's going to be a great many other spiritual talks I want to have about things like this, and I know people are probably going to be put off because this is a deep subject. It is a very deep subject, and it doesn't get any shallower, I should say, for repeating things that other people have discussed in the past, because it's new and it's fresh to a great number of people. And I do promise that I will work on my philautia. This group has helped me with that quite a bit. And,
Thank God.
and it helps me to appreciate all of you all the more. It is something that's hard. So it does require work, and I may fall off the path every now and then, but at least I know I have people who are perfectly willing to push me back up onto the path and not call me a drunken sot for falling off. And I promise I won't do the same. I will do the same for all of you, and I won't admonish any of you. It's so lonely. Where is everybody? I don't know. So, let me see. Shall we discuss other things towards the end? I can actually add that on to the description. Anything else anybody wants to discuss?
Can you give me a minute? Because I got to do something. I'll be right back. I'm sorry.
Okay. So, Sonia. Are you there,
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes.
Yes. What were you thinking?
I was just thinking everybody needs to work on self-loving themselves, because people can be very critical of themselves.
Yes. Well, we all know that we all are to some degree, except for those who are narcissistic, and that naturally pushes past that self. There's self-critique and there's self-critical. Self-critique is what I need to learn. Self-critical is what I need to escape. Critiquing means helping to find places to fix. Critical means basically whipping myself like a flagellant. And that is wrong. We should not, none of us do that. And we're taught that that's pretty much the only way that we should learn to be ourselves. That's Western mental methodology, which is horrifying. When you look at it from the outside and you see parents shaming their children, etc., it's horrifying. And where is Lori? Lori. Oh, she's not around. So if no one has anything that they want to add, then I can just wrap this up about 45 minutes early.
That's really soon. So, like, I get what you're saying, because that was kind of what my mentor was really trying to drive home, but that's just about any guide will try to drive home for you, is that you have to, like, accept yourself and love yourself before anything else will come to fruition for you, because if you're really hard on yourself, it's not going to be a positive outcome. But that's with anything in life, and if you keep putting people above yourself, then you're going to be, trying to draw from an empty well, and there'll be nothing to give. So, but I think it's kind of like common sense, right, for everybody at this point in time.
Right. Well, but also agape itself is a self-filling thing. It only gets stronger as you learn to manage the other forms of which is why it's at the highest of the understandings of love. When you read the description on it, you realize that it simply is an eternal wellspring. But if you want it to have the full richness and beauty of what it can be, you have to respect yourself. There are a lot of mangled sayings that were converted from Greek to English, such as to love other people, you first have to love yourself. Well, that's counterintuitive. It's not true. To give them, if you were to consider agape, what it could be at its strongest, it's a banquet. But if you don't have the understandings of the other forms of love and the will to express them, and the freedom within yourself to fully explore them and enrich them, then that banquet is basically turkey dinner with cranberries, and that's it. So it doesn't have its fullest impact. It will miss. It will not be. It will not be as moving an experience. And it is that moving nature of love, that strength of love, that is absolutely imperative to the full strength of somebody who's in this line of work. I'm telling you this because somebody recently told me that love is a very powerful motivator, and that somebody else could have done what I did, but it wouldn't have had the same impact because of that motivation. And I immediately accepted it as true because I realized it is an inescapable fact.
Good.
It's a wise person that said that. Very wise. Though she doesn't seem to see it sometimes. I admonish her on a regular basis, but tongue-in-cheek humor there. So go forth in love with everything that you do, especially in this line of work. Embrace it. Find the things that canker your heart and remove them. Do your best to let the horrible things that others feel slide off you, with understanding that they are abused themselves, and so they're simply rubbing their jagged edges up against anything that they can in hopes that it will soften them, and not realizing that it won't.
Okay. I like to think a lot of them, it's that they're just replicating their past because they don't know any better, and they haven't gained the foresight to self-reflect and go, wow, this wasn't healthy. I really shouldn't do this. So
it's all part and parcel of the same thing. No, whatever metaphor that helps you to understand the failings of others works. Just the hard part is making of yourself something within where you have a strong enough core of philautia that they simply aren't able to catch you with their thorns and rough edges. And you realize that their weakness is coming out in their lack of love. Love is not a weakness. Real love, loving others, the friendship, pragma. I mean, I got a lot of water under the bridge with Joel, and some of it's good, some of it's bad, but just the same, he and I, when we get together, it's like none of the bad stuff ever happened. I don't really resent him for any of his shenanigans, and he doesn't resent me for any of mine. That's a pretty rare thing in my life, I got to tell you. I think he and I, we have that kind of relationship pretty solely with each other. He doesn't have anyone else like me, and I have no one else like him. And so that makes it, yeah, I cherish that. And I cherish each and every one of you as well, because you've taught me something about myself as well. Each one of you has shown me something in myself I didn't know, and you've helped me to become a better person. And I hope that I'm doing the same for you. And for the people who watch this channel, I hope some of this helps, because a great percentage of what I discuss here isn't always only for doing things in a spiritual or metaphysical area, it can have effects on the rest of your life. And hopefully improving yourself in any area in your life, whether it's art or logic or family or love, it will help in all the other places, because a lot of the weights that we have on ourselves, the burdens we've taken onto ourselves and those that have been thrown onto our shoulders, they're lightened or removed or lessened or decreased in negativity only when we're willing to pick them up, look at them, realize what they are, and either ask for help, reach for an assisting hand, or simply just let the poison out that's been put within your chest. Whether it's verbal, physical, negatively emotional, love is the only way to drive out this venom. And our modern society is filled with this venom. So, if no one has anything else to add, I'm going to close up the broadcast early. So, needed to say something, Sonia?
It doesn't matter.
It does matter. What did you want to say?
It was just like since I joined the group, I have felt well. How can I put this? I've been more gentle to myself in a fashion. Like, I don't know how to put it. Like, I've seen myself in a better way than I have done in a few years.
That's good. That's excellent.
Yeah, I was about to say it's more acceptance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to put.
But it seems like that seems to be what has happened for everybody in the group, is a lot more acceptance of self, because it's this weird kind of, I want to say it's almost like this weird kind of programming that's been inserted into us, and I know I'm speaking for myself, and maybe for everybody else, that it's like what I'm wrong, or that I'm not wired correctly, or I'm wired wrong. There's something wrong with me, but like the more you spend time with talking to everybody in the group, and it's no, you're fine. You're wired fine, just the way you are, and you're supposed to be the way you are, and it's a good thing, and it's okay to be the way you are. So and that's a beautiful thing, to not be like everybody else. So yeah, sorry. It's like nature's work of art. There's just some things that exist in nature the way they are, and they need to stay the way they are, and not be changed or interrupted with. And just because it's different doesn't mean that it's bad. It's actually a good thing. So
Yes, our society tends to pound people into conformity for the sake of ease of understanding, and I don't like it. It's never been something I could easily accept. But as I've gotten older, I've watched it happen to older folks as they get older, and their minds finally begin to snap under the weight of what they've done to themselves or what they've allowed society to do to them. I mean, you look at my kids. I haven't done anything except push them into chores, and I haven't been terrible to them, and I don't hold any emotional swords of Damocles over their heads, like if you don't do this I won't love you type of thing. You can't do that, especially to a child. They need to learn who they are, and it starts early with a great many of us. In fact, I could tell you it's goes back to my earliest days that I can remember, so I'm pretty sure all of us get the same kind of conditioning.
yep.
So anytime you face someone who is the basest version of humanity that you come across, sympathy, not pity, because pity is a form of disdain, but sympathy should be somewhere inside your breast for them, not a let me give you a hug type of thing, because some of these people are so slimy. Hugging them would be like hugging a scorpion. You're going to get stung, or you're going to get the claws, or you're going to get both. So feel sympathy, but keep the distance, both emotional and mental and physical. because these kind of people can lash out at you and hit you really hard. It's the same with a great many of the spirits that you come across. You have to have a certain level of sympathy for them. Stronger people than myself, they are able to empathize with them and then link with them the same way that I can link with living folk, and then draw out a great understanding of them, such as Amy Allen and I've forgotten the name of the gentleman who used to converse regularly with Charlotte on the Queen Mary. I'll have to look up his name, but he was a remarkable psychic, and they have the ability to more than just talk with them. They can actually get into their heads the same way as they can get into their heads, and then are able to help sort out what they're feeling, and that requires a certain level of agape as well, so that you're able to unconditionally help the ones that are really quite vulgar, which we've had to do over the last several weeks. And I don't mean vulgar in they're dirty. I mean vulgar as in they are, if they were ever good, you could not discern that now by what was left. And but dealing with people that are still alive, there is a chance to reclaim some shred or repair the damage that was done by living selfishly, or living or being taught to be selfish, to put the self before everyone else, so that you simply are narcissistic beyond belief. There's always a chance for fixing that. Even if it's just a small percentage, it's better than letting the person drive themselves into the dirt and keep going, and you watch his body parts fall off. That's something I'm having to do with a friend now. I have to be at a distance, unfortunately, because he simply does not allow for any greater closeness as he kills himself by degrees. And so I have lots of experience with those who simply won't be pulled out of it. I've worked on it and worked on it and worked on it until eventually there was nothing to work on anymore. It's now past the point of no return. Up until that point, it isn't a moral obligation, it is a loving obligation to do what you can. And to any of you who are listening to this who have this in your future, knowingly or unknowingly, I wish you love and the very best, because it is a long, hard row to hoe. And once you're in that trench, you are suffering terribly. And if you need people because you are down, do not demand of yourself strength you would not expect of others. Reach out. Many hands make lighter work. So, until next time, may you be blessed by all things that you find worthy, and may your steps be light and carefree,